Long time no see, guys, but hey, I'm back. I moved back to my hometown, Budapest. If you don't know me, I'm an international student in America. I've been living there for 7 years. I finished high school there in a boarding school in Los Angeles, and then I went to community college, and then I transferred to university. We're living in a very hectic climate. I think everyone can agree with that at this point, and it's nothing new, unfortunately. I wanted to take the opportunity to talk about location identity. I was with a friend the other week, and there was this American guy, and he told me, you know what? You're like more American than I am. And man, if you guys would know how many times I've gotten this, I've gotten this at least 3 times in the past few months while I've been here in Hungary. It's kind of like a light bulb moment for me too, because it's just like I'm kind of in loss of my own identity, yet I do not have any papers in the US. The only thing I have right now is my expired visa, which I cannot renew because the embassy is closed and I cannot move back to the US right now. Let's talk about what's it like living in America, because man, I have so many stories for you. Let's start with, why do people want to move to America, right? I mean, I personally had a romanticized idea of America because I'm a film and TV show addict, and that's why I wanted to move there, to make it in Hollywood, which is obviously not what I'm doing right now because, you know, I met the Hollywood people, I analyzed the Hollywood people, and I don't know if I want to be one of the Hollywood people, but we'll see about that. Yeah. What draws most people to America is the economic opportunities that they give you. There's so many opportunities for money. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a country where you could even have an app for like dog walking, and like, I mean, you can make money literally out of anything. I just saw TikTok the other day that showed in Las Vegas or something, there's a place where you can buy lost mail for like $1, and you can just like open up the packages and like grab whatever. That's insane. Like, what the fuck? I'm pretty sure that's not legal anywhere else, or is it even legal there? I don't know. America is great at being America, and it's like, you know, they control like 90% of the world. Like, I mean, this is just me talking out of my head, you know, but like, I mean, where do you go? Like, what country do you go to where they don't know what America is? Or they're like, oh, I don't know where New York is. Let's just agree that everyone knows what America is, and a lot of people do want to immigrate there, and they do not make that process easy. There's other countries where there's easier immigration processes. But yeah, so Billion Lights, Las Vegas daiquiris, casinos, New York and Central Park, France Cafe, which does not exist, Los Angeles, Hollywood Hills, pools, shit ton of ACs that waste way too much energy. You do not need that much of the AC because LA is already so fucking hot. Beautiful landscapes, Alaska, I mean, there's Hawaii, and that's insane. Like, how can you have a country with a state that's like so far, you know, like it's all across the ocean? I mean, man, I'm just impressed. Like, there's so much to do in America, yet it's just, like, America can be very amazing in lots of different ways. Economic and like, you know, social. Like, it's pretty democratic, even though a lot of people would disagree with that, and I do not want to get too much into politics, but like, you know, there's way worse places to be. The individualism, that's just insane. I don't know, there's this like kind of like rat race culture. I mean, you can decide whether you want to participate in it or not, of course, but you know, like, America has a lot of things, a lot of big corporate companies that you can work for, big names, and you know, like, you can get on the top if you're like good enough, which is not true. Meritocracy is not a good thing, guys. Just saying. I learned it on my own skin. So let's talk about the immigration struggles that I faced in the last 7 years. I moved to the US when I was 17. I'm just gonna be talking about my own experiences. If anyone else felt something else, like, I know there's different ways to do this, but like, yeah, I just want to share my own experience if in case you're wondering what's it like living there and how the process will go, because I know like when you read shit ton of websites, the travel.state.org or whatever that is, it can get a little like redundant and it's hard to actually dissect the information that's in there. So let's start. One of the most important things and problems you're gonna face is that you don't have a social. You can get a social under different circumstances. Like you could work, like let's say if you're a student, you can work under CPT or OPT. You have to have certain units finished, or like you can work on campus, but like, you know, those jobs are quite competitive because all the international students want it as well, and also like there's US students who want it. There's all these different rules which I'm not gonna get into, but yeah, this way you could get a social, but you are very limited to it. Like let's say you can only work 20 hours a week. If you're in your studies and like over summer you could work 40, blah blah blah. If you're interested, I can make a whole video about that because like there's just a shit ton of rules. If you don't have a social, then you don't have credit. And what do you need credit for? Well, my friends, you need credit for basically everything. Once I was trying to get a Target card and they said socials, and I was like, nope. I mean, only the other kind, but not like the governmental kind, if you know what I mean. So they were like, sorry. And I was just like, oh, okay. You would need socials for like random bullshit. You need it for, let's say, leasing a car or renting an apartment, which turned out to be the biggest challenge for me and like most of the international students, because you would have to go and give them a credit score so they can be like, oh, okay, you're a reliable person. Like if you have a credit score over like 700, that's fine. But when you don't have that credit score, then they're like, oh, well, the only thing you could do is pay 12 months up front. And I was just like, are you serious? Like you're about to make me pay like 12K just right off the bat? Like, I'm sorry, but no. So often you end up just leasing through an already existing tenant who's subleasing, or you know, someone else's name is on the lease, and then like you're renting one room or like you're sharing a room. So this way you only have to pay month to month to like a different person, not the organization directly, which eases the process of renting. Or you find an organization or agency, or like, you know, just like an apartment complex that's like close to like a university campus or something, so they're more familiar with the immigration system, therefore you could use your I-20 visa paper to like live there. I don't know much about any other like immigration routes because obviously I'm not under a working visa or anything like that, and I think if you're under that, you already have a social, so I don't think you'd be facing these problems. So yeah, I think if you're under some sort of like academic visa, like M1 or like what else is there, like F1, J1, then you'd be facing these problems without having a social. I'm pretty sure you've heard about the amazing healthcare system the US has. This summer, I was in LA and I was on the street. This was right after one of the protests. So the police put these like, or I don't actually know who put it there. You know, I don't want to like accuse anyone of doing anything. I'm just gonna say that I was on the street and I went to Starbucks, I got a drink. I walked outside, this was in West LA. There were two cops standing and there was a wooden, it was like a sheet, I guess, like those things they would put up during the protest this summer to like, you know, to like stop people from breaking in. And there were huge ass screws sticking out of it. I'm gonna even link the video. And these two cops were watching that, and then I fucking walked into it. Have you seen Field Disruptor shoes? They're like yay thick, right? So the screws went straight into my shoes and then into my feet, both of them. What happened was that my feet started bleeding and they were like, oh my God, like, are you all right? And I was like, no man, I just had two fucking screws get stuck in my feet. How do you think I am? But I was kind of laughing out of shock because I tend to do that. I'm also that type of person who laughs at funerals. Yeah, I was just kind of sitting there like, what the fuck? Well, okay, so the cops ended up calling an ambulance, but I told them I don't want no like circus out of this. I don't want that whole theatrical kind of like, we're gonna take you to the hospital, because I was fine, you know, like I wasn't gonna faint or anything. I asked them like, how much is this gonna cost me? And they were like, well, we don't know. And I was like, well, why? Wait, what? Like, for real? And they were like, yeah, no, we don't know. Like, I mean, I guess you could just like get a tetanus shot and like you should be fine. You should just like, you know, put a cloth over your feet and it should be good. And I was like, okay, so why do I actually need a hospital for that? And they're like, well, yeah, you have to get the shot. And I was like, oh, right. Can I not just like walk into somewhere and do it? Like, I don't know. You know, here in Hungary, I don't even have an insurance right now, but I'm pretty sure I could just like walk in somewhere and be like, hi, this is what I need. And they'll be like, okay, let's do it for you. Like, I mean, you do have to wait like 4 hours to get it done, but like it will be done and it wouldn't be like hundreds of dollars. So yeah, what happens is that I need to get my insurance out, which is about like $1,300 a semester. And USC enforces us to get an insurance for international students specifically. So what I do is I'm trying to call my insurance to double check with them, like, okay, if I go to an emergency room, which they told me I'd have to do in order to get a tetanus shot, let's note that I have never in my life been in a hospital, knock on wood, except for my birth and when my grandparents were very sick and dying. I really didn't want to like go to one because I thought it was just too much and I was fine. I just needed a fucking shot. I ended up going anyway, but what I had to do is call 10 different hospitals because one, they were all closed due to Corona, which is interesting because it kind of destroys the purpose of the hospital. Like, so you're closed because there's a pandemic. Like, okay, so how do you treat those patients? But anyway, so they said, but there's an online session you can do. And I'm like, okay, well, how am I gonna inject myself a tetanus shot over Skype? Or no one even uses Skype anymore, so FaceTime, right? So what I do is I call them and the insurance lady says she has no idea whether they're gonna cover my shot or not. And I was just like, well, great, thanks for nothing. So I'm paying $1,300 to spend $40 on Uber to go all over to another USC sponsored hospital because I just want to make sure that, you know, I'm not going to end up paying $2,000 for this bullshit. Yeah, so I go there and then they do all sorts of things to me. The doctor's pretty hot. I mean, he looks like he's like 27 and I'm just like, damn, I can't believe you're a doctor. Like, well done. But like, besides that, you know, I mean, they're really nice, honestly, but yeah, I mean, I don't even know how to pay my bill. Like, they get it done, they give me a shot, and just like, that's it, really. I can't really stand for like a few days, but I'm fine. A few months later, they mail me this receipt. Actually, I just got it recently. Guess how much I had to pay for my treatment? It was $400. Okay, if we want to be accurate, it was like $380 because they were so generous. They gave me a $50 discount for having my insurance. Can you believe this? I mean, like, how amazing, right? So I had to pay $400 almost for a tetanus shot for stepping into screws on the street that the cops were observing. End of my story. You go and you know, make your conclusions. This is a hard one, guys. Like, I don't want to sound ungrateful by any means. I have great friends in America and for years I refused to leave. I insisted so much on staying there, like, you have no idea. Me and my best friend at some point were crying on Hollywood Hills, looking at the view and crying over the fact that we couldn't stay there forever. Hence my LA tattoo, which I don't know if you can see right now. So yeah, I love America, or I loved America. I kind of had like, I was in love with America. Blindly in love, you know, like I mean, I was 17 when I moved there. I arrived right in the whole social media emergence phase where like we started posting Instagram all the time for prom, and it was like so fun to like snap and Instagram and Insta story and hey, I'm a Melrose, you know, eating eggs Benedict, vegan burritos and like the juices and like the, you know, everything happened so fast. LA is a crazy place, by the way. Like I can only speak to my own experience because like, you know, Los Angeles is like has its own vibe. Like I have no idea what it would have been like living in Midwest America or New York, or I used to live in Miami because my half-sister was in school there, and like that's where her husband's from. So yeah, but the point is that I can mainly focus on my LA experience because that's what I've been living for the last 7 years. LA is a crazy place to be as a teenager because it's not enough that you have a crazy pressure in high school already, like, you know, just by being in high school and like being obsessed with like the popular people and the non-popular people and like the how do I look like what am I gonna be, what am I gonna do in my life, you guys know the drill. But LA emphasizes this because LA is a city obsessed with image and status. You see 16-year-old girls getting fake IDs and befriending party promoters that are like 30 or more, ending up going to parties, like big like club parties. You know, it's just not the most ideal place for a teenager, I think, let alone for a teenager without their parents or a guardian. This is what happened to me personally. Luckily, I was a little more older when I went, but like still not 18 or anything. Even if you're not a teenager, I think LA is still pretty hectic, you know? I mean, honestly, like recently it's just been insane. Ever since TikTok came in, you know, you see all these random people going viral and then all these like high school dropouts making money off of YouTube. They're millionaires, which is not a bad thing. I think that's amazing that they have these opportunities. In LA, you get this like entrepreneurship vibe where like the whole like hierarchy system is not really as much in place. It's more like you want to be a freelancer and you like want to make it and have your own brand and all these things, but like it ends up being this like closed off clique, like Hollywood cliques where like, you know, there's like the exclusive parties of the social media influencers and like it's great for them and I wish I could be a part of that too one day. Maybe help me guys, subscribe. But you know, I'm just saying like it's like an alternative reality. I don't think any other place functions like LA. That goes for most of, I mean like all of the cities, like every city has its own vibe, but LA is really its own world, just like New York. Those two places are very, very different, like filled with different personalities, extremely differential from each other. So let's just keep that in mind. After a few years, I think if you don't have anyone else from your home country or like, you know, your own ethnic group, I think it becomes hard to be there. Either you reject the American identity and like you just stick with your own group, you know, speak your own language most of the time. You have friends from like outside your ethnic group, but like you most likely stick to them like a family, which is, I think, great that you're preserving that. That's not what I did. I have no Hungarian friends whatsoever. If you don't do that, then you kind of end up like me, which I've noticed on other individuals who went through the same experience as me, who kind of like reject their own like national identity, and then you end up assimilating much more into that culture. I used to be proud of this, but now I'm kind of ashamed, especially that I'm back home and I get a lot of questions that are just like kind of shameful for me. Like I don't even hold an American passport. I get identified as an American here and it's not a good thing, guys. It's like, I don't know. It's like I don't even know who I am anymore because of this. It's kind of turned into like a national identity rant, which I often do recently because I'm like, you know, displaced, sorta, but that's fine. Yeah. No foreseeable immigration path. Like, you know, in certain countries, I know that like you can like move there and let's say you study there. There's certain ways to immigrate. In the US, there's not. Like a lot of Americans are surprised that like I haven't even started on the path to become a citizen. I was like, dude, do you know how this works? One could be living there for 15 years and like have no records. I mean, I'm not talking about being undocumented. I'm talking about being there on like, I don't know, like a student paper or something like that, like student visa or like other types of visas, just like not getting anywhere. Like the fact that you live there for 15 years doesn't mean anything. You change within yourself, that's it. Which brings me to my conclusion, which is I don't think I'm moving back to the US anymore. And if you've known me for a while, you know this is a pretty big deal to me because being in the US and wanting to immigrate to the US was like, it was part of who I was, you know? Wanting to be there and move there and stay there. And I never second guessed that thought, not even for a second, for the last 7-8 years. Even when I was living in England before I moved to America, I knew I wanted to be in America. Even as a child, I knew I wanted to be in America because I remembered how flashy and, you know, rich it was, and I wanted it back even when I was 4, which is crazy how your environment can affect your thought patterns, which is self-evident, but like even a 4-year-old could tell the difference between America and Hungary, for example. I'm not saying I don't want to move back ever, but I definitely do not want to move back to the US under this like constrained sort of immigration system where I have to pay thousands of dollars to be in an institution just so I can be there. I'm a first-gen student, so you know, like I'm extremely grateful for the opportunities I've been given. Don't get me wrong. I mean, honestly, like USC has given me so much, and especially perspective. Studying in America for so many years has opened my eyes. I don't know what I would have become if I never left. I can't even imagine it because I always wanted to leave. Even as a child, I just didn't feel comfortable in my own country. If you can and you have the financial means, or maybe you could save, I think it's definitely worth it to try out US lifestyle because it's very different and it's a hell of an experience. But I do think it's important not to fixate on staying there and like the whole immigration process, because literally for myself, my whole life was revolving around that, and I don't think one should give up so much of their own personalities just to assimilate into a different culture. I've come to accept that I can go back if I work hard enough, and I think you can too. If schooling in the US is not an option for you, there's a bunch of other things you could focus on in order to build and immigrate. It's gonna be a harder and a lot longer process, but trust me, it's gonna be worth it. Yeah, this is it for today for me. If you have any questions about US immigration, please let me know, because like based on what I've just told you guys, I'm pretty sure you understand that like I read that website religiously. I wish I can help anyone with achieving their goals as much as I can. Subscribe if you like my video, and peace out. This is Vicky the Alien.